So yeah, Manan, we are really happy to have you. First of all, would like to know your background. So can you please introduce yourself and let us know about your background?
Yeah, sure. So myself, Manan Sharma. I have done my BTech from Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya, which is in Bilaspur. That's it is also Central University. My BTech, I have done it in Computer Science and Engineering, and that's why I gave the paper of GATE in the course CSIT. In that, by taking a drop of 1 year, I was able to score 831. That is my GATE score, and my rank was 235, air 235. Other than that, I have few hobbies in physics and other stuff, but mostly I like doing algorithm analysis in CS. That's my most favorite topic in CS. That's why I do CS.
Okay, DSA.
Yeah.
Awesome. Got it. So I was going for to your resume, and you have done a good amount of work in the Flutter development side, right?
Yes.
So can you please explain your projects? Like you have mentioned three experiences here. Can you please tell us in depth about all these three experiences one by one so that we can understand what you have exactly done and what problems you have solved and what was the impact of that work for the company that you have done?
Okay. So first, starting with Flutter, I was in a team that was making the MVP, that is the most valuable product of the company, named Luna. That particular Flutter-based app is to basically connect teacher and students, your school teachers and their students and their parents, to form a connection between both of them. So there should be like transparency. That was the part. That was the main task of the project. My part in that project was to create the front end, mostly create the UI for that app, and most of the backend part was done by my senior. Next, going on in the FOMARC, like I have mentioned a company also FOMARC, in which I have done the backend work in Node.js. That was quite a while ago. But as far as I remember it, I have done mostly to create the backend for a website. That was the website is of the client of that company. FOMARC. FOMARC is a software solution company. For that client, we had to make a website which focuses on antiques along with the valuable products of that local area. That whatever manuscripts are there, whatever the monuments are there famous to that local area, or all the people that have that or who wants to own that. So it was like an e-commerce website that showcases all the manuscripts and traditional items for that particular organization. And third
Got
was
it.
my DSA internship from iHub, which is a part of IIT Roorkee. I was able to learn how to actually manage DSA, how to solve DSA efficiently. And in that, I have done a little project, which is actually a Sudoku solver. Uh, Other than that, I have mentioned a project named AstroGeek. That is also I have done in Flutter because I was more, but at from like till that time, I was getting more comfortable with Flutter. So I decided to make a project in Flutter also, and also my background is in physics and space and stuff. So I tried to combine them and make a project named AstroGeek, which is just a pocket guide for the stargazers and astronomers.
So can you dive deep into that? Like what exactly did you meant by that? What is the advanced understanding here of DSA that you have applied?
I have where in you are saying that IIT Roorkee
In
one.
the resume, you have mentioned Diginic Tech Labs, DSA intern.
Yeah, Digenic Tech Lab. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have learned in that instance about how to optimize your code, not just writing what the main logic is, but also trying to optimize it as much as possible so that it should run efficiently.
Can you give
That was
examples?
I can give examples like basically there are few searching techniques. Like first is really linear search, or you can then go to binary search, or there are also techniques like tournament method, for finding maximum and minimum, like that.
Okay, what's the advantage of binary search over linear search? Can you give with example?
So for binary search, the complexity is log of n for both of them, and the best case is O of n, but for average and worst case it is log of n.
Sorry, can you repeat?
The best case is O of 1.
Okay.
For binary search,
When?
and the worst case is log of n.
Okay. When did the best case happen?
When the element is found exactly at the middle position.
Got it. In the first iteration. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Sir, over to you. Then I can continue with the DSA questions, but first, yeah, you can ask.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you. And hello, Manan. So
Hello.
basically, you told that you have a GATE AIR 235, GATE score 834, right? In
Yes.
computer science branch. So why you are not interested in that masters, and then you are pursuing your career in that BARC atomic energy department? So is there any specific reason to come in this section, and then
Yes, yes. As I mentioned earlier, my most of the time my hobby is physics. So I'm very interested in applying what I've learned to the field of physics and stuff like that. So I decided that if I join BARC, I will get to learn more and contribute more in the field, in that particular field, by being a CS major also.
but if you got some project and that is not relevant to your interesting domain, as an office activity, offices assign some tasks related to computer science domain. They have some manpower requirement in some X domain, and then that domain is not much relevant with your that physics requirement. Let's suppose they are keeping you in an image processing department. So many different sections are there. So are you comfortable to continue on those departments?
Yeah, sure. That too is something to learn. If I get to learn something new, that would be best for me. I don't mind. And obviously, I think I will be placed mostly in that department, which is being in trend, which is being most valuable for me. So I think I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, and then as you mentioned that a few minutes ago, that best case complexity is O of 1, order of 1. So what do you understand with what is O of 1? What is order of 1?
Okay, if I say that I have done something, I'm doing a particular task, and I'm iterating over that task n times, then that particular complexity will be O of n or theta of n. Maybe n times or maybe less than n times. That would be theta of n or O of n. But if I'm doing that task in a serial manner, I'm not iterating over a code more than once or maybe more than a particular constant value, then that complexity will be theta of 1 or O of 1.
So can I say that order of 1 equal to order of n to the power 0? O of 1 is O of
Yes.
n to the power 0?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, and as you mentioned that you have worked on Sudoku solver, right? So which algorithm design technique
Yes.
you have used in that Sudoku solver approach, and which framework you have done? But the important is that what are the algorithm design technique you have used to solve the Sudoku? Do you know algorithm
Basically,
design?
I used, yeah. I basically used the brute force approach, the maybe greedy approach, in which I just started filling the empty grids as they are, and then saw if the Sudoku is, it is right or not. Are those numbers right or not? So as soon as I got a particular Sudoku which is being fair, which is fair as means whose sum are all being equal to the some constant amount, then I can conclude that this algorithm or these numbers are perfectly fit on their position.
So are you saying that the technique you have used, is it related to branch and bound, or it is different? Have you heard that branch and bound word?
Yes, I have heard it, but I cannot remember it right now. If I say that I'm using recursion and I'm traversing through grid by calling multiple functions in that same particular function, then I think it is branch and bound. But at the same time, it is also greedy because I am not using any kind of efficient method. I am just putting a particular number that I think which suits best in that place.
Okay, Manan, and then so you have mentioned that WebSocket, you have interest in that WebSocket, right? In your resume.
Yes, sir.
So what do you understand with the WebSocket? What is this socket in the web communication?
Okay, so WebSocket is like a pipeline between two hosts, maybe you can say host and server, and client and server, in which if I have to share any message to any other receiver, if a sender has to send a message to a receiver, he will first create a socket, which will act like a pipeline between both those two, and then he will send and receive message in that socket only. The you can say the
My one question is that we in client server communication, we need one socket or two socket.
one socket, sir. One socket would be enough.
So which side, at client side or server side,
I
or
think
it's
client.
somewhere in between somewhere else? And tell me one thing, that how this socket is created. You told that one socket is required. How this socket is created? If I'm talking with respect to the basic functionality of that server programming, that is network programming.
Yes, sir.
Can a user program itself is created it, or we have to use some system call for it?
Yes, I have to use a system call called the socket call. And at that same time, if I create a socket, the server must be listening to that. There are also some other calls like listen and accept and receive, like that.
So my next question is that is there any port number requirement to identify the socket, or without any port number we can do communication?
Yes, sir. There is a port number required. If I want to communicate in which protocol, based on that, like if I have to communicate in UDP or TCP, like that.
Okay, so the port number is assigned by whom? It's a user can select the port number, or that OS will assign the port number, or how we can manage it? We have to run a server or we have to run a specific socket on particular port number. So is there any specific system call to assign a particular port number?
I think, sir, most of the port number are already assigned by the RAC for different connections. And based on that, if I have to choose a particular connection, I have to use a particular port number.
So you talk about that RAC. So what is this RAC?
RAC is, I cannot remember the exact full form right now, but
Assigned
it is a
number
very
authority.
different document.
Number assigned authority. It's a kind of number assigned authority. Okay, so you say that the port number is already well defined. OS is already knowing that what port number we have to assign to which server. It's not user dependent.
Some of them are already well defined, and some of them are independent. We can change them.
And you have used that one term, listening. So who is going to listen? Client is going to listen, or server is going to listen?
Server is going to listen to any incoming request, and as soon as he accepts any request, he will then start the.
So server is listening client request, right? Server is running 24/7. Server is always available to hear client requests, right? So server is in the listen loop. So server is in which state? Active state or passive state? What kind of listen? What kind of socket at server end? It's an active socket or passive socket?
So I think it's passive socket.
So why it is a passive socket?
Because the server can't be active all the time. He will only acknowledge those requests when he receives it, when he receives something.
And what makes the server socket passive to active?
No, sir, I cannot remember that.
Okay, so sir, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So Manan, let's talk a bit about DSA side. So first of all, can you tell me which data structures you are comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with array, stack, queue.
Okay. What's the basic behavior of stack and queue both? Like if you can talk about both, each of them.
Okay, so stack is like a first in last out type of data structure. It takes all the elements first inside it, and the last element which was pushed into the stack gets popped out. Talking about queue, it is first in first out type of data structure. It outputs the first element it took in. That's the basic difference.
And what's the application of stack and queue in data in DSA or in algorithms?
Stack we can use for performing a DFS, yeah, like means depth first search, and Q we can use for performing breadth first search.
Got it. In depth first search, can you explain the idea about the discovery and the finishing time?
The discovery and the finishing time. Okay, suppose if a node has two children. Okay, I just can I take an example?
Sure.
Sure. So let's say if I have a node 0, which is parent node, and it has two childs, 1 and 2. And let's suppose one has another child named 3. Okay. So starting DFS, I would go to 0, then I would go to 1. I can choose any one between 1 or 2. I will choose 1. Okay. Now at time, let's say I have chosen 0 at time equals 0, and then I came to 1 at time t equals to 1. Then what will happen? I have discovered 1 at time t equals to 1. Then I will go to 2 at time t equals to 2. And then I will jump back to 1 as 2 don't have any child in my example. And when I jump back to 1, I will check if 1 has made any more child or any other child than 2. No, it doesn't have. So the completion time of 1 will now be 3. But I have discovered 1 at 1. So this is a main difference between completion time and discovery time.